And Catholics in particular, this is a dark time. It's not the worst of times because there's been worse popes in history who have been like 100 times more evil. But in my opinion, this is actually more dangerous because it is kind of like a Trojan horse, deceptive. On the surface, it might seem kind of nice and inclusive, but it's very dangerous. It might come across as, you're loving your neighbor or charity, but it is clearly a whitewashed sepulchre with rotten corpses and bones. Let's ask ourselves a question. How did LGBTQ take a chokehold on modern society? Simple. They push for acceptance. We were pushed to be more kind, more accepting, and now what happens? Many years after, a couple of decades later, they call all the shots on modern cultural discourse. So, last Sunday, the Catholic Church had a day called the Catholic Church World Day for the Poor. And Pope Francis hosted lunch for 1,200 poor and homeless people. But here's the twist. The VIPs of that invitation list were several trans women. Yep. And it gets worse. Many of whom, if not all, are sex workers. So what's the problem? Maybe the trans people are also poor and homeless? No. Some people might come up with a comparison. Oh, what about Jesus? Jesus talked to Mary Magdalene and talked to the lady he met at the well that was living in sin. But here's the difference. When Jesus spoke to people that were living in sin, his primary objective was to move them away from sin. In fact, the holiness of Jesus was so powerful that as soon as they came in contact with him, as soon as they came in his vicinity, they repented. So it's not about accepting them in their sinful lifestyle. It's more about accepting them as human beings. But the primary objective should be repentance. But the Pope did nothing of that. He didn't condemn their lifestyle. He didn't preach to them. He didn't celebrate a mass for them. He didn't tell them to start coming to church more regularly. He just had dinner with them and said, oh, come on, keep living your life. Keep being sex workers. And on the part of the trans delegation, there was no penance, there was no confession, there was no shame, there was no guilt, there was no repentance. So, it wasn't becoming of the Pope as the vicar of Christ. And finally, sex workers are not poor, especially in Rome or Italy. They are clearly not poor. And even if they were poor, if I was the Pope, the first thing you do with sex workers is job placement. Try to find them jobs. It's okay, I understand you're a sex worker, but you need to change his lifestyle. Get them into therapy. Put them on a path to getting off this lifestyle. So this is very disingenuous and fraudulent in my opinion. Inviting sex workers masquerading as poor and homeless. It's just one step. It's the second step. First of all, last year in October, the Pope kind of said, transgenders can be baptized. So now you're having lunch with them. Very soon he doesn't want to actually have an event with just LGBT. So he has to kind of pigeonhole them into a poor and homeless event. But I think we're well on the path to having the Pope having a clear event with just LGBT, giving them the validation. And this is very dangerous. So my advice for Catholics around the world, continue being Catholics. Being Catholic doesn't begin and end with the Pope. But dissociate yourself from the Pope to further notice. Direct all your loyalty to Christ, or risk being led astray.